here we are, lesson two, planning your trip. Lesson one was all about understanding anxiety, getting acquainted with the discovery of what anxiety is, where it comes from, looking at and exploring some triggers, and starting to develop ways to get past it. Lesson two is all about planning the trip. This can be a very large and overwhelming task for some people. I know that when I plan my trips, there generally is about 40 to 80 hours of just me doing research. And that's my flights, my hotels, the attractions I want to do, transportation, getting around, a number of things, and we're going to go into all those right now. So don't downplay planning. It's important. You know, the details, the thoroughness of you planning your trip. If you do it well and you do it, you do your due diligence, it'll make your trip so much easier. And some people are spontaneous. That's fine. I love being spontaneous from time to time. But you're listening to me because you have some issues with anxiety and specifically travel anxiety. So you're going to want to reduce all the potential triggers to your anxiety, and thorough and well thought out planning can definitely help you have a much more enjoyable trip, eliminate a lot of the unknown variables, and just make it more relaxing for you. It's tough. You don't necessarily want to have to figure out what hotel you're staying at the night you need a hotel, because you might not find what you want. You might be paying more than you need. There's a number of things that can happen if you don't plan your trip out well. So this whole lesson is about planning the trip. I hope you enjoy it. Again, it's totally fine to start small. You don't have to book a massive trip. You don't have to go around the world. You don't have to jump into a rental car, driving on the wrong side of the road in a country you don't understand the language. This is about, strategically and intelligently getting past your travel anxiety. So make it easy on yourself. If your travel anxiety is strong, don't overwhelm yourself. I have a friend who had travel anxiety her entire life, never really ever went outside the United States. She heard of my trip to Spain and how lovely it was, and got the nerve to do it with her friend. And she didn't prepare herself that well. She didn't really, she didn't plan it out. She didn't strategize it. She didn't take a lot of the tools that I use and implement them in her life. Granted, she didn't ask me, but she was just, didn't really know these things to look out for. Long story short, she ended up cutting her trip to Spain short by like 4 days. Flew back on a first class flight because all they had available. Spent like $2,500 just to get back from Spain, probably the cost of her whole trip, and had a bad time. Really got in a fight with the person she went with, and I don't think she has any desire to travel again. So she took what should have been, a confidence building experience, and because she didn't really approach it strategically, she actually turned it into probably her last attempt at international traveling. So that's what can happen when you don't give yourself the cushion you need, right? You're challenging yourself, you're moving forward in life, but you want to do it without overdoing it. So stay local if you want to. Stay international. You don't have to leave the country. I started, I didn't mention it actually, but I did a flight to Hawaii, I think, in 2009. I think between Costa Rica and Puerto Rico, I went to Hawaii just to do a trip. I went with two good friends, and it was great. So there's much to see locally, especially if you're in the U.S. It's a huge country, tons of things to experience, plenty of culture in different locations. Take a short in-flight, in-country flight, and don't overwhelm yourself. It's okay. Start small, baby steps. Baby step after baby step, and before you know it, you're sprinting. So don't do too much. If flying is terrifying for you at first, just take a road trip. Just drive. That could be one way to just do the experience and realize it's going to be fine. Reduce the variables, chip away, like I said, tear down your wall of anxiety brick by brick. Don't dump the whole wall on you at once, because you'll get squished. It's that simple. Small wins will compound, and your confidence will start to grow exponentially. It happened with me. I've experienced other people. I've witnessed them do it. So you can do it too. Understand yourself. Give yourself some credit, but also, respect your anxiety because it's real, and you're watching this because it's been restricting your life and you want to get past it. So, like I said, you can go with friends. Some people want to go solo. I totally admire the solo travelers. But when you're working with anxiety and you have issues, a lot of times your friends can really help you out. Now, the right friends can make your trip, can be awesome. The wrong friends will make it horrible. The girl I was just talking about that went to Spain went with her boyfriend at the time. They had an abusive relationship. They were aware of it. I don't know what she was thinking going with this guy, because everything, when they went to Spain, it just, all the underlying issues that they had, the frustrations and stress they had, they got magnified because the anxiety of the trip just kind of magnifies a lot of things. And so she went with the wrong person. That was a huge mistake. That being said, again, going with the right people can be an awesome choice. So try to find some friends. I think it can be beneficial. Ask yourself, can you handle it alone? If not, don't even consider it. If you can, maybe give it a shot. But start small and don't overwhelm yourself. So really, there's a lot you can do to mitigate the danger, to keep your anxiety at bay. And this is part of the macro, the 30,000 foot view that I was talking about. So first off, ensure that where you are going or intending to go, it's safe. Check the weather first. Is it accommodating for you? Like for me, I don't do well in high temperature environments. So I'm not going to go to the Sahara Desert or, Baja California in July because that's just not my body doesn't do well. Like my body thrives in like moderate type environments. That's why I lived in the mountains for 15, 20 years. So understand your personal, necessities first, like with the weather, like the temperatures. It's super cold, super hot, windy, and just make sure that it's accommodating for you. If you put yourself in a location that has nice, comfortable weather that you do good in, chances are you'll have a better trip. Also, there are many countries, especially many awesome countries to go visit that have earthquakes and volcanoes. Everything in the Ring of Fire, which is basically everything from, the United States West Coast down to South America, to New Zealand, up to Indonesia, Japan, Alaska. That whole Ring of Fire has a lot of volcanic activity, which means earthquakes, which could mean tsunamis. Now, they're rare, but they exist. Case in point, when we were in Bali, we dealt with a volcanic eruption potentially, and it's pretty scary, When those things go, it can be a traumatic and deadly event. So understand, that this could be a concern. The Boxing Day tsunami in Banda Aceh killed 250,000 people. Completely impossible to predict. Tragic in every way imaginable. But if that's in the back of your mind, maybe forego that trip for a little bit. So also look at the political scene. Is there a military coup happening? It might not seem like that's something that could be or should be a concern of yours, but it's real. And even just my last trip to Thailand a few months back, they were undergoing a political shift, essentially. And there was some turbulence, and it was a little shady. If you're going to go to Venezuela, obviously, that's not recommended by any means, but you just want to be aware of the political scene too, because the political scene can, create the underlying tension or environment for the entire country. So you can totally be aware of that, and it's not that hard to get information to see which countries are politically sound, which countries have military uh, coups or military activities going on that might be of relevance to you. So we're going to look at how to analyze and assess some of those as well. Also, watch out for places that have dangerous cartels, rampant drug use, extreme poverty, places that are undergoing severe poverty events right now that they're not that safe, more than likely, because with poverty you get crime. That's statistically proven. So try to stay away from places that are really poor. Like when I went to Costa Rica, the average Costa Rican essentially makes little to nothing on average a day. So it's a beautiful country, but there's also a lot of real life hardships on the local communities. And being an American, if you're coming from the United States or Great Britain, you're essentially rich to these people. Flash a few $100, that's like money for months for them. So you got to be careful to understand your environment. And if you're going to a place that has, massive drug cartels or smuggling issues or drug use, maybe just skip it altogether because you're putting yourself in a dangerous situation. One way to understand really, if any of these are going to be relevant to your trip or where you're thinking about going, is the Department of Homeland Security website. There's a link right here. They have a rating system of 1 through 4 for every country in the world. And if it's rated 1, that means there's no unusual or no dangers to be aware of. If it's rated 4, that means don't go. And then 2 or 3 are somewhere in between. So you can go on this website and look at the DHS rating system and get a better understanding of where you're going or where you're considering going. And if there's something that's maybe it's a rated 2 or a 3, especially 3 or 4, bypass it. Bypass it unless you're a thrill seeker, which is fine. I'm a thrill seeker too. But if you're just doing this, if you're just trying to starting out traveling to get over your anxiety, you don't want to go somewhere and add this stress on you. It can be crazy. Trust me, it can be totally nuts. So check out this website and just skim through it while you're looking at your choices. See how they're rated. Also, another great way to understand the potential issues of where you're going, Google and Bing searches, or whatever. Search the news, whatever news agency or outlet or channel you want to pursue. You can find out a lot by typing in Thailand and looking at the news. Or for me, in Bali, Indonesia, I had no idea about the Mount Agung potentially erupting until about 6 weeks before our trip. I type in Bali news, and it's like, bam, eruption. I'm like, shit, I'm gonna be there in 6 weeks, and that made it more stressful. I could have went through that whole trip and not known about the volcano, and it would have been even better because there would have been no stress. But also, I would have been ignorant to the potential danger that I was looking to put myself into. So you can get a lot of information from researching news articles about the different countries you're looking at going to, and I highly recommend you take that route so you can figure out if there's anything going on that you're not really confident about or comfortable with. Skip that country for now. Wait till your confidence gets built up. Wait for you to have a few trips under your belt, and then go to the more dangerous places as you get, become more of a skilled traveler. Another great way to reduce the danger or the potential threat of you traveling abroad is if you know someone in a different country, leverage that. Having someone in a foreign country that you can stay with, they can help you understand some cultural nuances, help you understand the food scene and getting around, transportation. That can be a massive help for you. And not only that, like, that can be a really big stress reliever, knowing that you're arriving to, say, Italy or Peru, and you have a friend there, and they can hopefully show you around and take you in their home and help you do things. And a lot of times locals will give you the best tips and hints on what to do. Most of the time you can find the best things to do, attractions and whatnot, through TripAdvisor or doing basic online research. But many times you don't know about the coolest things, and the locals do, and only they do, and they want to keep it that way. So having someone in a country that can help point you in the right direction and take you in their home can be a massive bonus, not only for comfort and security purposes, but also the overall general experience of it. At the very least, if you're not hanging out with that person, you just know that they're there, but you don't see them or interact with them, that's fine. At least knowing that you're in a new country, you're nervous, you have anxiety, knowing that someone's there that you can reach out to, something goes wrong, you get hurt, you break an ankle, who knows? Hey, so and so, I'm in Italy, whatever. I'm a few hours away. I got injured. Just want to let you know. They can help you out a lot. It can just be a big comforting effect. It also helps with networking. If you don't know someone when you go to a country, meet people while you're there. Like I said, get out of your head, enjoy yourself, talk to people, because You might go to a country and not know anybody now, but you go there and you talk to people and make friends. Well, next time you want to go back, you have that friend, and they can help save you money. You can stay in their place. You can not have to pay hotel fees. So there's just so much benefit, and learning and meeting people abroad. Of course, you got to always follow your intuition. Don't hang out with shady characters. Uh, don't be the gullible person that just trusts people and goes and jumps in the car and goes around, because people, it can be dangerous. You could get kidnapped, could get robbed. So you gotta use your better judgment. But I think most people are very keen on who's trustworthy and who's not. And while you're traveling and you're doing it with anxiety and you want to make sure you're safe, I think that you just trusting your intuition will lead you in the right direction. So definitely, if you know someone, make it a point to get a hold of them, at least so they know that you're coming, and make friends while you're there. I really think that the most important thing, aside from like Venezuela, that's undergoing a massive political issue, which is not that common, the most important thing is understanding the difference between high season, low season, and shoulder season, right? High season is when the crowds are at the highest, low season, the crowds are at their lowest, and shoulder season is some in between mixture. They generally coincide with seasons. That's why it's called season. But like high season in most places in the northern hemisphere is summertime, and low season is wintertime, and vice versa. Shorter season is usually spring and fall. I prefer shoulder season most every time. The seasonal awareness, that knowledge will drastically alter your trip. The picture on the top left is a beach on the Amalfi Coast in Italy. In the midsummer time, it does not look accommodating for me. That looks like chaos, and sure, it could be fun. You think about parking and getting a spot in the beach and doing any water sports. It's just chaos. Avoid it. Really, I don't think that it's worth it unless there's a certain event or a festival or some kind of attraction that you really want to do. Skip high season. It's more expensive. It's more crowded. Usually, it's the thick of the summertime, whether regardless of what hemisphere you're in, and it's just not worth it. On the contrary, low season, as you can see in the bottom right hand corner, this is actually Indonesia or Thailand. Torrential downpours. Stay away from that. You don't want to experience that. When I went to Thailand, it never rained, and it was great. I had a friend go, 6 weeks later than me, not the same year, but a few years prior. But he went in March, I went in January. He said it rained out. It rained the entire time, and they didn't have that much fun. It can make or break your trip, and like I said, the cost can vary considerably. You pay less in the low season because it's less crowded. You pay more in the high season because it's more crowded. In the shoulder season, you pay somewhere comfortably in between. What you can and cannot do, it may be altered. Like, weather might keep you from doing some of the better things you want to do. Or, for instance, when we were in Italy going through St. Peter's Basilica, they had us go through an underground route as opposed to the original usual entrance for whatever reason. And, I remember being under the basilica and with probably 600 people going through a corridor, and we were moving at, I don't even want to say a mile an hour. We were barely going. And it was October, so it wasn't that hot, it wasn't that cold. It was actually a fairly comfortable climate. But people were getting antsy, people were getting claustrophobic. This person, this funnel, which was probably 15 people wide, it funneled down into one person at a time corridor stairway, and it was horrible. And if that was the summertime, and we were all trying to make that happen in the middle of summer, and it was 100 degrees in there, no way, it would have sucked. So I can't emphasize how important it is to understand the seasonality of where you're wanting to go, and make sure that you pick a time that's right for you. Pick a place and a season that is good for who you are, but also make sure that it's not like you're gonna have horrible weather or be super busy and super crowded, because you want somewhere nice and in between. You want a very enjoyable trip, right? I mean, you want fun and you want interesting and relaxing. The photo on the top left, that's St. Peter's Basilica. It was almost empty. It was fantastic. Imagine that place with 1,000 more people in there. Not only is it crowded, you can't see things, it's full of pickpockets. You don't want to be in that building smashed together with people with pickpockets everywhere. It's not going to be good. You get your wallet stolen. You don't want to deal with that. So you want to be able to go to places that aren't busy, aren't slammed. You know, top right photo, that's me on top of a castle in Italy, um, on an island called Ischia. You know, there were people in the castle hotel. We stayed. My room was directly below where I was standing. We were able to explore the entire hotel grounds, and it was like it was our own private castle. And it's October. I mean, like I said, people were there, but it wasn't crowded. It wasn't empty, so it was awesome. Bottom left hand photo, me and my fiance at the time in Rome, hanging out, cruising. It was great. The bottom right hand photo is the pool in Tuscany we got married at. No one was there. It was gorgeous. We were able to just enjoy everything. So you want to pick a right time of year. You want to enjoy yourself. You want to go a shorter season if you can. October, September, April, May. It's fantastic. And just prepare to have fun. Do what's fun and relaxing. Don't cram yourself in with a bunch of people in the middle of summertime when it's super hot and super expensive. You won't enjoy it as much. So keep that in mind when you're planning your trip. Now that you have the macro framework, you understand, you know, in general, like I said, top down view, uh, where do you want to go, right? And you're basing these decisions off of overall security, safety, you know, your desired locations, you know, what kind of weather you want, you know, things of that nature. The bigger picture elements that are going to kind of, you know, be on a grander scale than the nitpicky attractions and whatnot. So you have the understanding down of what you want to do. Now compare them all. You know, you have three locations that you want to go to, three different potential trips. Make a pro and con sheet. Write them all down. Say you want to go to Japan, Australia, and Germany, which I think were my three choices 15 years ago. You know, pros of Germany, pros of Australia, pros of Japan, and the cons. And then look at what it costs to fly to each one of these places. Look at what it costs to stay in one of these places. Look at the general room rates. Look at high season versus low season. Maybe you only have a month or two of the year to even attempt to consider to travel. So maybe only one of those choices actually works. You know, maybe only one of those choices, you know, is affordable for you. It's has, you know, amiable weather while you're there, and you can check off, you know, things you want to do from the list of that place. So really it allows you to consolidate your choices and understand which one ultimately are you going to pick, right? And pick the one that covers the most for you. Pick the one that is exciting for you. Pick the one that's fulfilling for you. Pick the one that is going to, you know, entice you, motivate you to take the trip, and then pick one. And that's the one that you're going to look at booking. And really, it's important to note that you're not going to like it all. You won't like every experience that you have. You won't like every single food that you eat. I mean, that's just life. If you want to live in a bubble and only do things that you know you like, more power to you, but I think that's a shame. You know, I have friends that I've traveled with that, for whatever reason, have an incredibly limited palate. They eat four or five things. I have a friend who will drink Coca-Cola and not Pepsi. He only likes chicken and Coke and like three other things. And it's a total junk food diet. And he won't, you know, we're in Costa Rica and we're eating at like five-star Argentinian restaurants, and he's getting the most basic meals, and it's like, dude, like, why don't you try something new? And he's just super picky, and to me that's just limiting yourself and your experience of Earth and the world and people. So you're traveling, you've already taken massive steps out of your comfort zone. Go a little farther, try new things, realize you won't like everything, you won't like every attraction that you pick. You can only forecast or preview things online. When you get there, it's usually somewhat different. So just realize that, you know, you're not going to pick perfection. You're not. And really, for me in all my travels, perfection, a perfect trip is one that has, you know, random variables show up that I overcome. You know, I've never, very rarely do my trips go perfectly as I planned them. And those are great trips, but the ones that are most memorable are the ones where I get curveballs thrown at me. and I got to learn how to navigate that, and it's great. So, you have the framework, the overall view. You're not gonna like everything you do, but you'll probably like most things you do. If you have your choices narrowed down three different places, make a pro con sheet and go for it. And assess, analyze, and understand what it is you're getting into, and really take the time to, dive into these three locations and figure out what's best for you. And really, while you're thinking about it, you know, make it sexy. Make it a sexy trip. You're going through these things in your head. You're thinking about political issues and natural disasters potentially, and what season you want it is, and you're trying to navigate and go to pick a choice that's gonna have the least amount of danger for you. But while you're doing that, think about the things you want to do and make it sexy, make it fun. Like, wow, I would love to go bungee jumping in New Zealand, or river rafting in Costa Rica, or go to the Louvre in France. The purpose of this is not only to just see the world and get out of your comfort zone and defeat your travel anxiety. The purpose is to have an awesome time doing it. So really, like I said, and I say make it sexy. I don't mean sexual. I mean make it alluring. Let it entice you. Get excited about the choices. Get excited about your three options. When I think about going to Japan, Australia, or Germany, yeah, they all sound fun. I can think of different things in each place. Oktoberfest in Germany would be awesome. Going to a Buddhist temple in Japan would be amazing. Surfing in the Gold Coast of Australia would be phenomenal. These are all things that are like, they get me going. They motivate me. So do the same for you, whatever it is that you're thinking about. And then, frame it in your budget, because your budget's going to be one of your biggest factors here. And it's critical that you pick something that is affordable, that you're not constantly stressed out the entire time about money, but you're also pushing yourself. You're doing things like you're spending money on activities and events and nice restaurants and good hotels, and you're comfortable. So really analyze your budget, figure out what it's worth. Like I said before that the average 2 week trip is about $4,000. That's not really true, actually. That's pretty high. That's a pretty luxurious 2 week trip. We did Bali, and the reason we did Bali was because of the affordability. And I think we both got away with $2,500 each for the entire 2 week trip. So you can be flexible. If you really want to go cheap, you can stay in hostels, which we'll get into later in the course. You can stay in hostels. You can do cheap flights. You can do activities that don't cost much money, like hiking and things like that. So you can do a lot. You'd be surprised if you're going to somewhere expensive like Monaco or Tokyo. That's going to greatly affect your capabilities depending on what your budget is. So analyze your budget, write it down. How much can you spend? How much time do you want to go? Your flight's usually your most valuable, your most expensive thing. Then your hotels are usually the next. And we'll go into all that later. But get a budget, ballpark it, how much time, how much money, and then start thinking about your flight. Because your flight is your bread to your trip. Your flight sandwiches your adventure. So use good bread, right? Don't go overboard. I don't even like to fly business class if it's money out of my pocket, because business class is essentially a $2,000 upgrade. Well, to me, that's basically another trip. So why would I throw away a 2 week adventure just to sit a little more comfortably on a flight? I mean, I get it. That's kind of a rhetorical question, but really, like, if you're doing this and you're not wealthy, I'm not wealthy. I've done well. I'm fortunate, but I'm not rich by any means. Not nowhere even close. So $2,000 is a lot of money to me. So I fly coach and I fly economy, and I pick generally good airlines. I can't always determine which airline I go with. Sometimes you'll fly to a place like New Zealand, and it's New Zealand Air or Air New Zealand. That's it. Flew to Italy, it was Alitalia. You don't have all the options usually, but you can. So do your diligence, read reviews, um, and just think about it. Like I said, plan a trip in your head that is attractive for you, and get ready to have fun, because we're doing this planning out under the auspice of, I have anxiety, I want to be safe but have fun and travel. But just figure that you're going to be indulging yourself. It's totally fine. You deserve it. You've been working hard. This is what you deserve. So think about what you're doing and think about it in a positive light, and think about it in a sexy light, and think about it in a way that makes you excited about it. Obviously, where you sleep is critical as well. I like sleeping in nice places. Of course, most people do. I don't like wasting money on sleeping accommodations. But really, when travel anxiety is an issue for you and you start your adventures, you want to be comfortable. You know, where you lay your head down, the hotel or the services you stay at, you want to feel secure, you want to feel safe, you want to feel comfortable, you want it to be clean because you don't want to get sick. You want to make sure there aren't any bed bugs in the bed. You know, there's a number of things that you want to look out for. You want to make sure there's a safe in your room that's bolted down. So where you sleep is critical. You know, I think back to in Costa Rica, our second week when I was talking about me, you know, losing it, so to speak, because my nerves were shot. A big part of that was our second location in Costa Rica was a beachfront house. Little did we know, right next door, literally 6 feet from my head when I slept, was a 15-story resort being built. And they worked Monday through Saturday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And at 6 a.m. every day, except for Sunday, I could hear cement trucks driving by literally 3 feet from my head outside my room in the alleyway. And it was horrible. It, you know, actually we had an entire week at this house and we stayed 4 days and then we left and went somewhere else. We went and stayed at a national reserve down about 2 hours south because we just didn't, it was that unenjoyable. You know, in Barcelona, our Spain trip was amazing. When we got to Barcelona toward the end of the trip, the first hotel that we had reserved, you know, we got there and it just felt off. It felt weird and creepy, and it was just, I mean, I don't want to go into detail, but it was just a very unsettling hotel, and we left. And they wouldn't let us leave without paying. Like, we had to call, you know, I use hotels.com for a number of my reservations, and I had to call them, and because I was a gold member, you know, they basically worked it so that we could escape and we could get our money back. But the hotel concierge, she was telling us that we wouldn't get a penny back, and we were paying for all 3 nights. And thankfully, hotels.com customer service was there for us because it was just a creepy place. And, you know, thankfully we were able to get a hotel a block away, and it was perfect and it was great. But where you sleep, the hotel, the accommodations is critical, especially as you start, you know, traveling more and you start dealing with your anxiety issues and facing them head on. It plays a major role. So spend time thinking about it. And it, you know, where you go, it makes a big difference. Your hotel can be your most expensive element of your trip, or it can be marginal. Like I said, in Bali, we were paying, you know, $140 a night for 1,500 square foot private villas with our own private pool. It's amazing. You know, in Rome, if you want to be in the heart of the city in Rome, you spend $140 a night and you can get a nice room, but you're not getting a private villa. So really read reviews. We love TripAdvisor and, you know, whatever blogs or review forms we can get, we search. And we don't just search like the general overall rating. We'll look at the short-term ones too, because sometimes you'll find that you'll have a hotel that has amazing ratings, you know, it looks perfect, but then if you read some reviews from within the past few months, you might see that there is construction going on outside on the road or next door. You know, you could have a hotel that's historically not well reviewed, but then in the last 6 months they did a giant reconstruction or remodeling, and, you know, it might have like a 7 out of 10 overall, but in the last 4 or 5 months it's got, you know, 9 and 10 out of 10 because they did a remodel. It could be new management. So, you know, learn how to filter hotels, not only the overall rating, but the short-term reviews as well. You know, it can be very, very valuable, and it's worth taking the time, budgeting your hotels out, figuring out where you want to stay, and then doing your reviews. So by now you're starting to really visualize your trip, right? You're starting to look at all the macro elements, the political scene, the news events, the weather, the time of year, right? The different seasonality issues that you might be experiencing. You're thinking about your flight, your budget, the distance, the layovers, and we'll go into that in more detail later. But you're looking at your hotels, what you want to do, what you want to get out of your trip. So you're starting to really visualize the framework of what you would like to do on your travel adventure. Get familiar with your options. Now that you've narrowed it down and you have an idea, look at the maps. Look at your three trip options, right? You have three different vacations now, and compare them. Look at your maps, your surroundings. If anxiety is a concern, make sure that you have all your creature comforts as close by as possible. Again, utilize reviews. People are, generally more likely to leave a review because they're unhappy. Take that into account. There are some review facts to know about. You don't have to spend too much time on this, but I posted a link here to a website that just kind of helps understand and explore and explain the online review process, and some consistencies you'll see with people, and just some things to look out for that might be inaccurate. But really, we're in the society now is not so much accreditation. It's more about peer reviews, and leverage peer reviews because that's valuable feedback for you. Again, stay away from poverty-stricken areas. It can be depressing. It can be dangerous, and I know there are economic factors in every country, but being near poor areas can it's not essentially the safest place. Going back to Costa Rica, our second week when we got into the new place, when we were partying too much, there was construction next door. I remember when we arrived at our new location, our second location in Costa Rica, it's torrential downpour, it's raining, and we're excited to get to our new place because it's a beachfront house, right? But as we're pulling up to our location, like we're literally passing by, like right next door to our home, we're literally passing by shanty homes made of corrugated metal, right? Like roofing as walls, and it's like very, very poverty stricken. This was never mentioned in our discovery process of this location. This was actually a place that I let my buddy pick. I picked the first location week one in Costa Rica. It was phenomenal. I let my friend pick the second location. It sucked. Like we just ditched out early. So try to avoid poverty-stricken areas. This place I was surfing out of the house. There was sewage running right into the water. I got respiratory infection because of that. It's important to just understand your surroundings. And it can be different everywhere you go. There can be mosquitoes and, potential illness and disease issues. You could have dangerous wildlife, like really, natural disasters, unhealthy water. All these things we'll go into in a little more detail, but taking into the macro, this is you looking at your potential trips from the 30,000-foot view. So get familiar with your surroundings. Like I said, utilizing maps, Bing Maps is, or Google Maps, whatever map app you want to use. You can get an idea of your hotels. Look at your hotels on the map, and then look what's around them, and look around, what attractions are around. And I'll be doing, I think, as a supplement to this, my 6-lesson course here, I'll have some tools that I'm going to offer, as just an extra bonus to this course, and I'll show you how I go through and utilize the map tools and figure out my hotels based on reviews. So that way I can kind of just coach you and guide you. But in the meantime, it's good to get familiar with your options. You spend a lot of time thinking about everything, so visualize it now. Where is everything in relationship to each other? How far is the airport from your hotel? What's your hotel around? If you need medical assistance, pharmacy, all these things are a factor, especially when it comes to people with anxiety. You're traveling and you want to be comfortable. So really get familiar with your options, and then you'll have a better understanding of what's around you, and you'll be less, determined by the unknown, and you'll feel more comfortable with what you're doing. So you spent a lot of time at the overall picture, right? Getting familiar with your options and everything we've talked about this lesson. You have your 3 locations, right? You have your 3 potential trips. List out your top 5 hotels, top 5 attractions, and start to use the different filters with the whatever the hotels app or the Airbnb. There are some big factors at play. Pay now versus free cancellation. I think if you want to lessen the financial hit, you can do free cancellations. Now, you might pay a little more because of that. You might be subject to exchange rate fluctuation between the time you book your hotel and the time you arrive at your destination. They could be in your favor or not in your favor. You look for free parking, breakfast included. Most places have free Wi-Fi. All these little things are going to help your stay. And really, like, an ideal trip for me, if I'm working through my anxiety and I'm traveling in a new country, I want free cancellation in case something goes wrong and I can't make my trip. I want free parking if I have a car. I want breakfast included just because it's that much easier. It's not always worth it, but it's nice to have. And I want free Wi-Fi, of course. I want it to be generally, unless we're going to somewhere remote, like the purpose is to be like getaway style trip or vacation or location. I want to be walking distance to food and stores and transit because it just makes life easier. I also, like I said, I'm a big fan of Hotels.com. For every 10 hotels you book on their site, you get one free. So it's an effective 10% reduction on price, give or take. And I like to really be consistent because with Hotels.com, I can build up my credits as well as build up my status. Like I said, I was a gold member, now I'm a silver member. But that can help you when you have issues. The customer service is a little more apt to go out of their way if you're a gold or silver member. You can have whatever, Bookings.com or Expedia, which might be Hotels.com. But yeah, try to utilize these websites and services and these apps so you get credit. You build up your travel budget and your travel knowledge and your travel stature. So you can also book through a travel site like Hotels.com or book directly through the hotel. This can be kind of tricky, and a lot of times it doesn't matter. When it comes to hotels, I like booking all my hotels through a hotel service, either Hotels.com, Bookings.com is a good one. They have a lot of hotels that Hotels.com doesn't have. And then recently I found Agoda has a lot of great deals and, a lot of unique places as well. If you book hotels directly through the hotel itself, it's generally a little more expensive and you don't get to build up credits. And I don't know. I've enjoyed, it's been worth it having the Hotels.com or the Agoda or Booking.com service between me and the hotel. When it comes to flights, I'm the opposite. I want to book directly with the airline and not through like Just Fly or Kayak. But sometimes you don't have a choice. I think I go into that a little more talking about booking our flight. But it's good to be aware that there are distinctions here, and it could be favorable or it could be a hindrance depending on what you choose. Like I said, list out your top 5 attractions, what you want to do. Is the hotel you're staying at the attraction? We stayed at a place called Bananas Bungalows in Thailand, and just being there was the attraction. So we didn't need to go anywhere. The beach was there, the hammocks were there, the kayaking was right there. It was kind of remote, so we didn't go anywhere. There was bicycles for cruising around. But figure out, you have your 3 countries essentially. You have your ideal travel itineraries. You have what you would love to do and what's attractive and sexy for you. You have like 5 hotels in a certain area, and then you have like a handful of attractions you want to do. And just start framing it, figuring out what's appealing to you and what's not, and writing it down. And before you know it, you'll have it all narrowed down and you'll be ready to book. So there we have it. That's lesson 2. I know it's a pretty big one. It's all about getting your head right, understanding the big picture of what you're doing. Planning is a huge part of your trip. If you don't want to deal with all the planning, there are travel agents. I've helped people before plan their trips. I plan trips around travel anxiety. So it's, if you're watching this course, you have travel anxiety. If you don't want to book or plan your trip out, I can probably help. If not, I'll work with you to help you get it done. But planning is a big part. I don't know. I don't track how many hours I spend on each one of our trips, but I can tell you for a 2 week international journey, I spend easily 40 hours just in booking flight and hotel. And it could easily go into 60 or 80 hours, especially when it comes to attractions and then transportation and just all the ancillary things I want to know about. And between me and my wife, we can easily do 100 hours of planning. So it's a big deal. So there's something to be said for travel agents because, you know, they can really streamline the entire process and say, you can say, this is kind of where I want to go, or I want to go somewhere, and this is my budget, and this is my time frame, and this is the time of year. And they can say, cool, and just give you packages. And if you don't have the time, if you have a busy life, that might be your best option. Like I said, we'll gladly help you, or we'll help you find someone else. And it's okay to start small, stay local, work your ways up. Like I said, this is a 10-year progression for me, and it didn't happen overnight. Could it have happened overnight? Sure, maybe. Could I have pushed too hard and had it backfire and had it totally just destroy my desire to travel? Yeah, I've seen it happen before. Do what's best for you, right? And then get ready to start booking your trip. Like I said, at this point, you've been planning, you have a good idea of what you're looking for and what you're capable of and your financial condition. And it's time to start booking your trip. That's the exciting part. That's one of the most exciting parts for me. Because once I book that flight, it's happening. So get ready. And of course, again, I have homework. I know it might sound a little ridiculous, but like I said, this is a course. These are things that you're doing to work closer, and if you don't do the work, it doesn't manifest itself. It's all just conceptual, like everything in life. You got to do the work. Homework. Finalize your comparisons. Write down your ideal itinerary, right? You have your 3 countries, your 3 trips. You have your 5 hotels in each one. You have your 5 attractions in each location. Write down your ideal. What is your best option of all of those? What's the sexiest trip for you? What do you get the most out of your money for? What inspires you? What's drawing you toward that location? Set a date for when you will begin booking. I know that the next lesson is our booking lesson. I don't expect you to, if you're doing this every night, book your whole trip tonight and tomorrow. It's not really practical. Do it. If you're inspired, do it. Do it right now. Don't wait. But, at the least, schedule it in. It'll help you not forget and then help make it a reality. Also, figure out who you want to go with, if anyone. If you're a solo traveler and you get the nerve to do it, that's awesome. It is. Chances are, if you're a solo traveler and you're listening to this course, you have travel anxiety, but you're going to defeat it quickly because you're just that kind of a person. No guarantees, but that seems to be the case usually. Otherwise, find a friend, find a group of friends, make it a fun trip. Find a couple high school buddies or work buddies or family members even that you get along with, are low drama, low stress. And try to, even if it's for 5 days, even if it's a long weekend, do a 3-day trip to Cancun or go to Vancouver, British Columbia, Hawaii, just whatever it takes. I didn't list it, but I did a trip to Hawaii with 2 of my best friends when I was getting my travel anxiety dealt with, and it just helps. It just chip away at that wall, brick by brick, defeating my anxiety. Again, breathing exercises, 10 deep breaths in, 10 deep breaths out, in through the nose, out through the mouth. When you breathe in through the nose, fill up all your chambers, fill up your upper chest, your diaphragm, your stomach, Like I said, that's an easy Google search. That's essentially Buddhist to some extent, Hindu exercises. Incredibly valuable. They'll help reverse your anxiety almost immediately if you catch it soon enough. And then meditate. Meditation is awesome. It is. I know it's kind of the hot topic people are catching on in this fast-paced world with so much technology and so much distraction. Meditation, while it seems counterintuitive to stop everything and not get things done, it actually helps you significantly when you go to get things done that need to be done, and it helps relax your body, mind, and your spirit. So if you can, make that a common practice. Thanks again. I really hope you enjoyed the lesson. Next lesson is lesson 3. We book your trip. This is where it gets fun. Thanks again.